Hi, my name is Ann Holmes and my technique is no sewing until you quilt it. I just came from a stained glass background for over 30 years. I was used to building a window on top of a design, one patch or one piece at a time, one piece of glass at a time. And I've developed a technique where I build a quilt on top of my design with the French fuse as a foundation. This is a soft tricot interfacing. I use French fuse. It comes in 60 inches wide, and you can float one continuous piece over your drawing. And then I build my quilts one piece at a time, applique style, from the back to the foreground. I add seam allowances to each pattern piece with my magic button. I've adapted my rotary cutter with a button that I put on the side of the blade, so when I roll the button along the edge of the freezer paper, I am automatically adding my seam allowance. As a stained glass artist, we had to, you couldn't just cut any shape out of glass. You had to sort of block things off. And that's essentially what I'm doing for my fabric. I iron all of my pieces onto, that are going to be out of the same fabric, and I rotary cut out them, and I'm using my left hand to steer. So I roll the button right on the edge, and I can speed cut all of these things out very quickly. See, I'm not just stopping and going like this. I'm continuing through. It just makes cutting things a whole lot faster and easier. So, and then when I build, I use glue stick to turn under the edges. So this piece is going to go here. Everything has a number. I have my working drawing underneath, and I've made a freezer paper copy, and I've put the same numbers on the freezer paper that are on the design below. All of the seam allowances, as I'm beginning to build, begin to disappear. So before I started to build this, I took a digital image of my working drawing so I would know exactly where that piece goes. And we have little tick marks or registration marks too to help with placement. So what I do is just hold this up. This piece is only going to touch from here to there. Something else will be on top of here, and there's a little cap on the top of that letter. This is going to say riverboat. So I use my small embroidery scissors and cut any inside curve just to the paper, not into the paper. We want to keep a nice smooth edge when we turn it back. So we use glue stick to turn it back. I use the glue stick. This is the first gluing. And then I hold the freezer paper facing me, and I just turn this back to the paper. The paper rules, so you must follow the paper. I kind of use my fingers just to roll this back. And then I finger press. That's the only pressing I have to do in this entire quilt top. Everything will be nice and flat as I build. So then I hold this up here, and this looks good. Now where else does it have to be turned? It's going to touch right here, so this edge has to be turned. So I put glue stick on the edge there, and I turn it back just like that. The nice thing about French fuse is if I've put something down and I don't like it, I can edit my work. But here I'm going to put this down, and I don't want that raw edge to stick out there, so I'm just going to nip that off a little bit. So this will fit there nicely. But now how am I going to hold the seam allowances together? This is where I use the second gluing. The French fuse itself will hold the body of everything together, but we need to hold the seam allowances together with glue stick. And so then I'm generous with the glue because that's what's holding the seam allowances together. I place that in place. Oops, I forgot. This is touching right here too, so I need to pull this up and turn that edge as well. So just pull it up, clip that, And we're going to roll it back to the paper, make it match the paper. Finger press. And so now that looks better. We'll put that piece right there, putting the seam allowances together with the glue stick. And I've traded my soldering iron for a sealing iron. I use the sealing iron then to fuse it down. And the French fuse, you don't have to worry about getting it on your iron. I try to avoid it, but it's not gummy. It's more forgiving than other fusibles. And I'd like to also show you, if I put this down and I decide I want to change that fabric choice, I can easily edit this by just pulling it back and replacing it with another color. And then I can just, if I want to put the same thing back, I can just pull that up, put a little more glue stick in there, seal this down, just like that. See, put that down. I'm going to put a little more glue stick on the edges. So we're building the quilt top from the front. This is exactly the way you would look at the top of the quilt. I don't have to reverse anything. We're building from the front. So thank you very much.